Okay, so hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Charge Up with Home Batteries. We are delighted to be joined today by Danielle Wiess, Director of Transportation Initiatives with us here at Community Energy Association. My name is Mariah, and I'll be your host for today. I'm the Program Manager for Retrofit Assist, also with the Community Energy Association. If you haven't met us before, I'll introduce you to what we do in a couple of minutes here. So today's webinar is part two of a three-part series. We'll provide details in the chat about the next and final session, where you can go and find out more information and register. Today's webinar will provide some insights into electric vehicle or EV chargers, home batteries, and their integration. And we'll also hear from a homeowner, Ashley, and her experience installing solar, a charger, and a heat pump. Next slide. So across BC, local governments recognize that there's a growing demand for more energy efficient, comfortable, and climate resilient homes, but there's still a gap in the workforce needed to deliver that work. Contractors and builders need access to the right training to meet this demand, and that's where CEA comes in. CEA is a registered charity and nonprofit that works with local governments and Indigenous communities to accelerate action on climate and energy. Since 2017, we've been delivering programming that increases access for the building community and homeowners to educational and informative resources and supports related to high performance building and home energy retrofits. Next slide. So one of the programs that we offer is the Energy Concierge Service Retrofit Assist. Through this program, we support homeowners in completing their home energy upgrades. This support can include scheduling an EnerGuide evaluation, prioritizing your upgrades, connecting with contractors, reviewing quotes, maximizing rebates, and ensuring you're meeting eligibility requirements, and much more. Retrofit Assist is currently offered as a free service in Whistler, Squamish, Kamloops, East Kootenay, Roslyn, and Vernon. And we'll share the link and the website in the chat if you're interested in learning a little bit more. And so with that, I will introduce you to our presenter for today. Danielle Wiess is the Director of Transportation Initiatives for Community Energy Association. She supports local governments with low carbon transportation strategy, infrastructure, and education and awareness initiatives. She has led the development of regional EV charging networks in northern BC, Vancouver Island, the Kootenays, across Alberta, and in southwest Ontario. Danielle brings 2 decades of experience working in energy and sustainability, including project management, disclosure and reporting, integration, strategy development, communications, and stakeholder engagement. Danielle, thank you in advance for your presentation, and feel free to take it away.
Great. Thanks, Mariah. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today and talk a little bit more about energy independence at your home. I wanted to start today by taking a moment to recognize some Indigenous leadership in this space. As Mariah mentioned, we at CEA have been working on electrification of different parts of someone's life for a while now. It was about 10 years ago that we endeavored into an initiative we call Accelerate Kootenays, where we installed EV charging infrastructure across the central, west, and east Kootenays to enable EV travel into and through the region. As part of that project, in collaboration with the Ktunaxa Nation, we were able to install EV chargers and a solar array. The solar array directly connects to that EV charger, enabling the sun to power folks' movement, the message that the nation wanted to share with its members. And that's situated at the Cranbrook Administration Building. And as well, we also installed as part of that project EV chargers at the Occam Trading and Convenience Store, which is situated near St. Eugene's Mission Resort. And that those chargers are also part of Accelerate Kootenays. We were very excited to be approached by the Ktunaxa Nation at that time with their interest in being involved in the project, and they've continued to demonstrate leadership across clean energy and sustainable transportation since that time. More recent initiatives include the adoption of several electric vehicles into their fleets and into their business operations, and employing those not only for the traditional use of, moving people and things around, but maximizing their ability to also power events and spaces and things like that. So they've definitely taken this opportunity and dove all in. And so just wanted to recognize them and that work. Today's presentation is going to provide a little bit of background because I'm not sure where everyone's coming from to this session. And then, as Mariah mentioned, we will dive deep into a case study and we'll talk more with Ashley about the journey she's been on with her home. So to get started, we'll talk about electric vehicles and EV chargers. Just quickly on the slide, an overview of electric vehicles. They range from battery electrics, which are 100% powered by batteries and electricity on the left. An example there is the Hyundai Kona. And then range all the way over to the right to fuel cell electric vehicles or hydrogen vehicles. In between, we have hybrid electric vehicles. That's the what's called that. Best example of that is the original hybrid, which is the Toyota Prius. It does not plug in, but it has a gas-powered motor and a electric motor, and they support each other in maximizing efficiency. And then, of course, there's plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. They both also has a gas and an electric motor. They can work in tandem, but you can also choose to just drive on the gas motor or just the electric motor, and you have the ability to power up your electric motor. Typically, those plug-in hybrid vehicles have a shorter range when they're in electric only because there's only so much room under the hood of a vehicle, and you can't fit a gas engine and a full suite of batteries to power the vehicle. So it's usually a shorter range, like 100 kilometers or less. Nonetheless, all great vehicles, all great alternatives if you want to start electrifying your transportation. And we can talk more about EVs and whatnot if needed, but I'll advance to the next slide. Don't forget to use the Q&A function, and you can use that at any time through the session and interrupt. Morale will be watching for questions and can jump in. Likewise, you can also raise your hand if you wanted to come off mute yourself and pose a question. A little bit about EV chargers. So there's three types, level 1 through level 3. We'll start on the left side, which is the fastest, DCFC, so that's a direct current fast charger. Level 3, high speed charger. What else does it go by? I don't know. But anyways, lots of names out there. They're the fastest. They're ranging in speed nowadays. The first fast chargers were around 50 kilowatts. Of power, and now they go, oh my goodness, all the way into the 400s or something like that. So not all fast chargers are alike, but they have the same intent of providing a quick supply of electricity to your vehicle. We call them the stop and go because they're typically used on longer travel, on longer trips and travel. You need to you use them in the most similar way to how you might stop into a convenience store for your gas or diesel powered vehicle. A few notes at the bottom there, just that like public fee for use is around 50 cents a minute. It's changing. This slide might be a little out of date. I think BC Hydro just upped theirs a little bit. And you won't see these deployed in an individual home or typically at a multi-unit residential building. The reason being is that they require three-phase power, typically a transformer. That's a significant amount of electrical capacity, which also comes with a significant cost. And typically vehicles parked at a home or a multi-unit building or any single-family home, multi-unit building, or anywhere in between is going to be there longer than 20 minutes or 1 hour, and a DCFC is not the right charger for that application. A level 2 is the most common type of charger you'll see out there. We'll talk more about these later because these are the ones you can see in homes, but also are publicly available. These are what we call the stop and shop, slow and steady. You can explore the town. You can go to bed and wake up in the morning with your car fully charged. These are the longer use stations, 4 to 8 hours probably, something like that, or more or less. But you're not going to get a full charge on most vehicles today in less than that period of time. Fee for use in the public is usually around $1 to $2 an hour. Again, this could be changing, ebbing, flowing. You're not going to see these you shouldn't be seeing these out in the public too much more for free. That was an initial incentive that a lot of chargers had because they were trying to get folks to adopt the technology and use them, but we're seeing that go away. And again, you could see these chargers at your house. Some of you might even already have one. Ashley's going to speak to this later. Your fee for use at your home is, of course, your local electricity rate from your distributor. So total cost is dependent on that arrangement. And then a level one is a charger that you can just plug into a 110 wall outlet. Um, Definitely can charge your vehicle. I have several colleagues who own EVs and don't even have a level two at home. They don't travel too much on the daily, so they just make use with the level one. And if they are going on a longer trip or travel, they use a fast charger that's available in the community. So um, each of these is a viable solution to powering your vehicle, and they have different, obviously, fees, times for charging, etc. So a bit more about charging at home, just quickly. More about the rates. These charge level ones charge at about 1 to 1.5 kilowatts. There's a single dollar sign next to them because they're probably they are the most cost effective. Most vehicles have, some might still, but at the very least you can purchase them, come with a level one charging device when you purchase them. You can definitely purchase it separate if it doesn't come with already. They add uh, kilometers of range very slowly, but it's all very dependent on your vehicle and the battery in your vehicle. A conversation that I've had several times about charging your EV is around like, how long does it take to charge? And the answer is always it depends, because it depends on the charger you're using and it depends on the battery in your vehicle. It is not always the exact same scenario at every instance. So just a flag for that. And then level twos, as I didn't mention on the previous slide, but they connect to a 240 volt outlet. So that's very similar to your household oven or your clothes dryer. They charge at 3.3 to 19.2 kilowatts. That depends on how you hook that up to the panel and set it up, but those are the ranges possible. Most common configuration is for 6.6, which on average adds about 100 kilometers range in about 5 hours or so, depending on vehicle efficiency. That could be faster, that could be slower. It all depends on what type of make and model you have for a vehicle. Just a quick visual summary of the at-home charging kind of options. As I mentioned, this level one charging cord, we use the Ford example just because they have this very nice comparison, but this can come with any vehicle. Level one charging cord, that's a 110 volt outlet. You get this little inverter, and then there's your charging device that goes into your vehicle. The level two, this doesn't show the connection on the backside, but again, connected into a 240 volt plug-in, and then has the same apparatus to plug into your vehicle. So next slide. Oh, I'll pause there. We're shifting to batteries. If there's any questions or comments, Maria?
No questions in the Q&A, but this is a great time if anyone wants to raise their virtual hand as well.
All right. Seeing none, I'll carry on. I just want to recognize that this slide, the source here is Swell Energy, and we can share that afterwards. So this is a schematic or a process flow diagram of how a battery may be utilized at your home. Home batteries are the exact same thing as a car battery. They're just typically smaller. They have the same composition. The most common composition now, of course, is lithium. Other types of battery technology is in development. The whole goal with any battery development these days is to make it lighter, more efficient, those kind of things. So most of these are, again, lithium ion right now, but we'll see what the future holds. If I just walk you through this home battery setup, number one, that's the electrical grid, generates and distributes energy. Number two, that's your main distribution panel. So power from the grid enters your home through a single set of wires, could be above ground or below ground. This panel splits the power from the grid and sends it along the circuits to the rooms and appliances in your house. After you install a home battery, as you can see on the schematic, only certain larger loads remain connected directly to the main panel. And anything connected to the main panel, which includes everything in a home without a battery, it can be susceptible to a power outage. So this is why, if you install a battery, you may want to make these alterations as to what was in place before. Number three, that's the home battery system. To be honest, that's exactly kind of what they look like. They're just like a wall box that has a battery inside. You can Google some other images. One of the first ones to put out home batteries was Tesla, the Tesla Power Walls. Seen them in person. Yeah, that's pretty much what they look like. I think they're silver though. Very streamlined, very nondescript. So depending on your decision to adopt one and where and how you want to mount it. It's nice because they aren't bulky, they aren't cumbersome, those kind of things. So the battery system, of course, part of the reason for adopting is that it acts as a buffer between your grid and your home. It charges from the grid or the solar panel or potentially from your electric vehicle. We'll talk a bit more about that last one later. And of course, in an outage, uh, the idea of a battery is that it instantaneously disconnects from the main panel and the rest of the grid and creates a self-sustaining personal grid that includes, again, the solar panels if you have them installed and you've hooked up the important appliances devices in your home. And of course, a home battery provides that option if you have solar connected to it, which we will talk about solar next, to store energy that is created during the day and distribute it, when the sun isn't shining overnight or on those cloudy days. Of course, number four is the solar panels. If you didn't partake, our last webinar in the series was all about solar panels, so I encourage you to check out that recording if you want to learn more. Given that we did spend a lot of time last time on this topic, I'll just jump ahead. Number five is your critical load panel. So this is what you've decided is the most important pieces of your home that you want to make sure has continuous electrical supply. Examples that they have in this schematic, your fridge, your lighting, your TV, your laptops, other things and all in between. It's really up to the homeowner to kind of decide what is their critical load items and how they want to configure that setup. Definitely not an in-depth review of how home batteries work, but intentionally here, we're just hoping to give you the overview of them and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Sticking with home batteries for a moment, this is a quick review of why a home battery might be suitable for you. Obviously, as we're talking about here today, energy independence is a great option. Number two is reducing peak charges, or said alternatively, lowering your electricity costs. You can purchase electricity from the grid when it is most cost effective. Typically, that's overnight when everyone else is also not using it. You can store it in your battery and use it when energy is more expensive. Of course, those are the hours when everyone else is using it. We're fortunate in BC that through our utility provider, BC Hydro, you can earn rewards through their Peak Saver program. I'll just flag that the Peak Saver program is also available right now to folks who don't have home batteries. If you haven't checked it out, you should. I've earned $4 or $5 myself by not turning on some lights and limiting electrical use over this past month. So definitely a great incentive program. Of course, long term, your electrical bill will be cheaper with the home battery. Again, you'll be taking electricity from the grid when it's at its non-peak rate, so that should come through in your total cost. And of course, it provides resilience. Depending on where you are joining from today, perhaps resilience is something that you're challenged by. You have more outages than you'd prefer, or they're more impactful than you'd like, and so that's why you're considering a home battery. Home batteries versus EV batteries. As I said when we started, A home battery is an EV battery, just typically smaller. But on screen here, we just did a direct comparison. Home batteries, one battery can be less than 10 kilowatt hours. It has smaller backup needs, or can power just part of the home. Um, you could obviously install multiple home batteries, so you could increase your total kilowatt hours available. EV batteries, for example, the Hyundai Kona, which is a commonly owned EV, has a 65 kilowatt hour battery. Approximately 10 kilowatt hours, just so you know, on the home battery side is a 1 day backup for an average single family home. So having that home battery should at least get you going for 1 day post an event or a power outage. And greater than 10 kilowatt hours or multiple day backup, or for larger homes, you would need a larger install if you wanted multiple day backup or for larger homes. And then the EV batteries, just pointing out that the available battery that comes with the vehicle definitely increases depending on the type of vehicle you purchase. You can see the F-150 Lightning extended range has up to 131 kilowatt hours of battery available. So uh, something to consider if you're debating between a home battery or an EV or contemplating how they might work together. Apologies, wrong direction. So EVs as home batteries, as I alluded to, um, they can be more than a power draw. For instance, you may have enough battery in your EV to support your home, then you would need to pull from the grid at any time. EVs do sit idle majority of the time. I mean, vehicles in general sit idle, like I think the statistic is 96% of the time. So if you are going to adopt an EV and have the opportunity for it to sit at your home, and be accessible to provide power to your home as needed, that's certainly something to consider. As noted, EVs contain the capacity to power most single-family homes for multiple days, and right now they are limited by their ability to give power back to a home. This is a evolving space. BC Hydro is doing several pilots right now to test vehicle to building to grid capacity. It's certainly an opportunity. With all the AVs that have been adopted in BC, we have so many mobile batteries moving about, not only personally, but through public institutions and private businesses. A coordinated look at how we can use these assets in the event of an emergency or power outages is certainly worthwhile, and excited to hear more about BC Hydro's work in that space. They just launched their first pilot, which is a vehicle to grid test with several school buses operating in the Lower Mainland. So the intent of the pilot is to understand how much impact the battery will endure by being able to power the grid at times as needed. It's not, we know well that this technology can work. It's a question about what is the impact and long term, how does that look for the grid? How does it look for that asset, etc. So, of course, more information is always better. So, about 6 months into that pilot, so later this fall, it'll be exciting to see their initial outputs. The organization that's doing that, while I'm on this tangent, is called Fuse Power, and you can look them up and learn more. As I mentioned, vehicle to home is the missing link. Some EVs do come with the ability to provide battery power to an alternative or to a building. This text here says EVs with V to X. X is a placeholder for any type of outlet. So it could be your home, it could be a building, it could be a grocery store, whatever. The VTX technology can become an energy source in those EVs that have the ability. And yes, they can help to power buildings, devices, and even the grid. Oops. Just want to note that this is an emerging opportunity, hoping for it to be here sooner than later for all of us to utilize. And as V to X capable vehicles become more common, you can anticipate that there will be more exploration and demand side management programs by the likes of BC Hydro and Fortis. So watch that space. And just an example here of the vehicle, oh, sorry. Oh, of the vehicles that are suited to provide vehicle to X kind of power. So you can draw from the batteries in the vehicle. These are on here. So these vehicles have the capacity to do that. Again, not all vehicles do. So we have the Nissan Leaf, the F-150 Lightning, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and 6, Kia EV6, the Honda Prologue, and the Chevy Silverado. And as well, you can read here, there's several in the medium and heavy duty models. And note, BC Hydro on this lower table has identified which chargers can facilitate vehicle to house power and connection and two-way power flow. So just something to keep in mind that if you're going to be looking into this, not all assets are the same and can do the same type of technology and energy transfer. So need to pay attention to those details. Any questions about batteries and vehicles and the intersect between them and your homes?
We do have one question in the chat, Danielle. So Lyndon's asking, are you aware of any contractors who offer support in DIY battery setups as far as providing engineering and CSA approval for installations which aren't off the shelf, such as a Tesla Powerwall? The cost savings of assembling a setup from components are hard to ignore, but I've always wondered what the implications would be from a building code and insurance perspective.
Great question. Given the word DIY is in there, there's not much we can comment on. It's not a best practice we would follow, but I would encourage you to check out the different forums and speak with some of your local electricians who may have had this experience. I do know um, of several pilots where folks have done just exactly as you've described, but yeah, it's definitely a bit more of an underground conversation. So check into that. The best example of, um, well, I was just going to say that the most common example we've seen of a vehicle providing power to a home is through the Ford F-150 and their associated charger. There were stories coming out of Ontario several years ago during a power loss event that someone powered their home and they powered essential pieces in their home for up to 3 days. So there's certainly an opportunity.
Thanks, Danielle. That's the only question in the chat for now.
Okay. And I'm just going to jump ahead to heat pumps. Today's session was mostly about batteries. I just wanted to provide a quick brief on heat pumps because after this slide, we'll be shifting over to Ashley, who's going to share her experience with her own home and electrifying elements of it. But she has a heat pump. So just quickly, if you're not versed in heat pumps, they can be multiple, there are multiple sources of energy supply to heat pumps. We're talking today specifically to electric heat pumps, and the schematic on the screen just quickly reviews how they work. So in the summer, they take the warm air from outside, they run it through a condenser, and they produce cold air into the home, very similar to what a air conditioner does. But they have the added benefit that in the winter, they can take cold air from outside, run it over the condenser, and produce warm air in the home. So heating your home, and cold air gets sucked out and is put back to the outside. So um, I've worked in this space for a long time regarding buildings, and we've always laughed at a heat pump. It's definitely not the best name for these devices, but that's how they work. And they are, again, they are, sorry, powered by electricity in this case. And just to note that I think this might still be true, and Mariah can correct me if I'm wrong, heat pumps are about 3 times more efficient than an electric baseboard heater. So from a cost savings perspective, you will notice that significantly if you were to upgrade your baseboard heating to a heat pump. And so, with all of that background information, we will go over to Ashley. Ashley is a homeowner in the East Kootenays. She's here today to tell us a bit about her story. And so I will pass it over to you, Ashley, and you can just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Sure, sounds good. So yeah, as Danielle mentioned, I'm just a homeowner that's interested in um, these types of upgrades. So, as mentioned, I live in East Kootenay, specifically in Fernie. We have a single family dwelling, so kind of like a one-story house. There's two of us that live here, and it's about 1,100 square feet. It is an older house, so it was 1970s-ish. It has no natural gas connection, which was interesting when we first moved in. It also has no, previous to us doing retrofits, I would say it has no additional upgrades in terms of the initial heat systems that were there. So when we first moved in, it was basically a heated via electric baseboards with a wood stove. And we were here a year before we actually started undertaking retrofits. That was in 2021. So the data that I have is a little out of date or a little estimated, but I know that that first winter that we were in our house, I think our highest BC Hydro bill, I think, was approaching like $900. So it was quite expensive just to heat the house with electric baseboards, given the fact that it's probably fairly poorly insulated as well. And it was also fairly onerous in terms of keeping the wood stove going. So that winter, we did a lot of chopping wood to try to reduce the burden on our electric baseboard heaters, to try to reduce the cost, given that it was quite expensive. So this is a picture of our house kind of pre-retrofit, just from the Google search. And then on the right-hand side, this is a table of our approximate expenses for the year. So again, it's just electricity. There's no natural gas connection in the house. Pre-retrofit costs were about $3,000 a year for electricity. And again, that's for everything, heating, appliances, everything. I also included the fuel for the car because one of the things that we did look at was electrifying our vehicles as well. So I estimated that we spent approximately $3,000 a year in gas. This doesn't include maintenance or anything additional from that. So a total of approximately $6,000 a year for what I'll say is energy between our house and our car. We'll go to the next slide. So the decision to retrofit, the big one was really more about cost savings. Like I said, we had kind of a shocking first winter here where our hydro bill was quite expensive, especially in January and February. So there was a desire to retrofit to make the house more economical over the long term, given its age. I also, just from my own professional background, know that BC's electrical grid is not running into issues, but that it definitely has challenges in terms of long-term drought. So the idea that more resilience and more of a local generation of power is probably a good thing to do. And then the last one, and I would say the kind of third one overall, was environmental concerns. So a desire to want to retrofit our house in a more environmentally conscious way. So what we did in 2021 to start our journey, I would say we did do a pre-retrofit energy evaluation. This was part of the Canada Green Homes Grant process. And so the recommendations from that basically included air sealing, increasing our attic insulation, as well as a heat pump and solar panels. I would say solar panels was probably the fourth, if not fifth, recommendation that our energy evaluator gave us. The heat pump was the really critical one, I would say, that they recommended in terms of improving the efficiency of our house. So Danielle, I don't know if you want to speak to the diagram on the side there.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ashley. As you can see there, the source for this image is from the Home Performance Stakeholder Council. You can just Google that and come across their webpage. They support contractors in becoming well versed in energy retrofits. But this image speaks to the recommendations that Ashley was provided. Air sealing, increasing attic insulation, heat pump, solar panels. That's all considering what is best for a home when you look at it as a full system. And if you zoom out, if I go back on this image, I just pulled this from their page. You can see that approaching a home and considering planning its retrofits for the house as a system always includes what kind of Ashley was told, air sealing, insulation, high efficient ventilation systems. So that would be the heat pump, and then efficient windows and doors, and then finally, efficient heating systems, and then yes, always the opportunity for solar. So uh, mostly my point here is that many of us will receive the same feedback if we also endeavored into doing a energy evaluation.
Yeah, perfect. So what we did is we lived in the house for about 2 years, and then we started to undertake some retrofits. The first ones we did in 2022, we did do the heat pump and the solar panel installation. Um, and then in 2023, we did do our attic installation. So 2024, that was the year that we purchased an electric car. So, excuse me, the decision to purchase an electric car was basically our old car was really old. And at that time, there's quite a lot of incentives, both federally as well as provincially, to buy an electric car. So it basically was, in terms of the decision to do that, it was quite an easy decision, I would say, in terms of going from a gas-powered vehicle to an electric car. We did get rid of our gas-powered car, so an electric car is the only car that we have here in Fernie, and we basically use it, I would say, like 80% of the kilometers that we put on it are all on highway. So we're probably a little bit of the outlier in terms of the typical person or people who are buying electric vehicles at this point. But yeah, it was, I think, an easier decision to make in terms of saving money, but also in terms of, thinking long term and trying to get off oil and gas as much as possible. So the next thing we did do is we also did, in 2025, we did install a level 2 EV charger. We basically spent about 8 months using just our level 1. So that's just the plug-in, as Danielle mentioned, to charge the car. And then we did make the decision to install a level 2 EV charger. The reason why we did this and the main impetus for doing it was, like I said, most of the driving that we do is going to Calgary or driving highway on long distance. That level 1 charger on our car takes approximately 3 to 4 days to charge the vehicle. So we were finding that it took a lot of advanced planning to think about, for example, to drive from Fernie to Calgary, about 300 kilometers, so it requires a full charge. It required kind of like a 3 to 4 day lead in if we were going to do it at home. So the convenience of having that level 2 charger, for us, with the type of driving that we do here, it became really important. In terms of the funding and loans that we accessed, we did do the Canada Green Homes Grant plus the loan program. So that was available for us at that point. And then we made use of the provincial grants via BC Hydro for both our heat pump, our attic insulation, as well as the EV charger. All right, we'll go next slide. So in terms of installation costs, the solar panels were definitely the largest investment. So we basically maxed out our solar panels. We got the biggest array that we could possibly fit on our roof. It's very large. It's 15 kilowatt hours. So that at that time in 2022 was just under $27,000. Our heat pump is a mini split one. So you can see here's the picture of the unit on the outside. Inside, we don't have any ducting in our house because everything was electric baseboard. So we have this mini split set up. So basically we have 3 what they call heads in our house, and those are the actual places where heat or cooling is actually provided. So that heat pump, that mini split setup was just under $17,000. Our car charger was just under $4,000. I put an asterisk here because we had to do some work on our panel in order to make that happen. So if you don't have a 1970s house that has correspondingly poor wiring and a correspondingly poor panel, that could potentially be a lot cheaper. So the total for us was just under $50,000 all in over a couple of years. But then after rebates, we were able to access about $7,300 in rebates between the Canada Green Homes Grant and then the provincial rebates. So it's about $40,000, noting that the solar panels and the heat pump, we also use the Canada Green Homes loan program. So that's that previous $40,000 loan program that I don't believe is available anymore. So that's kind of the cost breakdown in terms of our retrofits. Okay, so this is a breakdown. I love numbers, so this is going to be very numbers heavy. But so this is kind of the operating costs, basically what's happened since we installed it. I don't have great data before we installed our solar panels and our heat pump, but at least this gives an idea of our total yearly cost for power before and after at least we installed our EV charger. So you can see that first one, that May 2023 to March 2024, our total yearly cost for electricity was just under $300. So this is for everything in our house, basically heating, appliances, everything. And again, this is post solar panels and heat pump, but it's before we bought an electric car. The next year, 2024, that's when we bought an electric car. So you can see that our electricity bill basically went up to $735. And then the year after is the year that we bought a level 2 charger. So again, we do the vast majority of our EV charging at home. We do, I would say, probably like 80% of our charging at home. So that cost difference, that like 500, I would say like, $400 to $500 additional dollars is that's the charging for our car. So really like our average yearly home energy plus our car charging bill is about $900, and this is kind of assuming $300 of non-home charge card or car charging a year. So this is those fast chargers on the road that Danielle mentioned. So the difference between what we were spending before and what we're spending after is about $5,000. So again, assuming that we spend about $6,000 a year on electricity and gas. What's not accounted for in this is the potential difference in a cost of an electric car versus an internal combustion one, which is coming down, as well as the fact that for EVs, of course, you don't have nearly the maintenance that you do for internal combustion engines. So those costs aren't accounted for, but this is just the energy difference. So again, basically saving just over $5,000 a year with our retrofits. So yeah, reflections in terms of beyond just the money component of it. What has it meant to do this retrofit? The big ones for the pros, the installation of the heat pump gives us air conditioning in the summer, which our house was not air conditioned previously. When we first got this, I didn't think of this as that big a deal and that big a benefit, but it's been a really huge benefit in the years since, considering that, of course, our summers are getting warmer and warmer. It's super nice to have that air conditioning. It's much easier. It's basically the system is entirely passive. It requires very little input from me. It's definitely easier than chopping wood for a wood stove. There's less air pollution. And basically the only maintenance requirements are some vacuuming of filters, and then once in a while, a contractor coming just to make sure that the heat pump system is still working well. Another pro is that the solar panels also help to extend the life of the roof, given that they're covering it up. I wouldn't say the cons, but the learnings I would say is Fernie can get a lot of snow. So the contractor that you do for your solar panels should be well versed on how to account for snow load on the roof. We found that our solar panels tend to rip our gutters off just when they avalanche snow. The other learnings is the solar panels I would say probably work best with metal roofs to help shed that snow. And then another one with the solar panels is that when we did the modeling with the contractors, say how much energy we could do, I think their models are a little bit off in that they don't account for the fact that the Fernie factor gives us potentially more snow, but it also gives us potentially a bit more cloud cover. So our generation is a bit lower. But like I said, overall, it's been great. The systems are entirely mostly passive, so they just sit there doing their thing. It's been very, very easy for us to do. Yeah, and that's kind of it in terms of my reflections.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Always great to hear from someone who's actually has lived experience. Nice to have some unbiased, true information. No offense to any contractors out there, but your experience is yours, and so you can speak to it well. Mariah, over to you, I think, to facilitate the Q&A.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes here or so to go through some questions, and we do have a couple in the chat. Reminder that if you still have a question, please still throw it in the Q&A, or you are welcome to raise your hand as well. So the first question that we have here for you, Danielle, is can you compare the initial cost between a battery setup and a propane generator?
Mm. No, unfortunately I can't. I'm not versed in the world of propane generators, so we could follow up and probably find that information and share out after.
Thanks, Danielle. Yep, we'll make a note of that. And then the next question we have is, what safety precautions should you take in deciding where to place a mini panel and the battery?
Oh, the mini panel being the distribution panel for where the power from your battery goes. Well, obviously you'd refer to an electrician first and foremost. In my experience, I have seen batteries and panels both inside of homes, like in the actual living space, in garages, and in exterior but covered mounted environments. So I think it all depends. Of course, it always depends on your home, your situation, your local climate, and whatnot. But yeah, an electrician could best advise on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Danielle. Um, and then from Gail, if I have solar panels and I am connected to the grid, can it be modified to receive power from the grid to top up my batteries in the winter?
Right, and that was specific to the EV battery, correct?
Gail, would you be
Yeah.
able to just confirm?
Or do you have just home batteries?
No, we have an electric car and we have solar panels, and we're looking at installing a battery as backup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's the battery to the mini panel
Mm-hmm.
that I'm concerned about.
No, I think as shared in that schematic previously, I can go back to it. That is the intent. You can set that up so that you can connect your grid to your battery. So yeah, from number two is the main distribution panel, but yeah, you could connect that to your battery and then decide how you want to roll that out after that. So I think sounds possible. I'm definitely not a home battery expert, just understand it at a high level. So again, an electrician would be best able to comment. One experience with batteries, of course. Not all electricians are the same, and so just make sure you talk to someone with the experience.
And Gail did have a follow-up question just asking if a battery can be kept in a shelter outside.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I've seen this. Again, an electrician would be able to best comment. Obviously, it also depends on how your battery was housed, what it's covered in with regards to plastic, metal, whatnot, and who you've purchased it from and their specifications around using the battery. But yeah, a qualified electrician should be able to help out.
Perfect. And Danielle, can you talk about any rebates, programs, or government incentives for new single-family dwellings in BC? Any offerings from nonprofits like yourselves to assist new build clients with all things solar and batteries?
Um, Well, that's a great question. You have myself here, who is not familiar with rebates and incentive programs right now in the building space, and Mariah is better versed in existing buildings. I can't answer that question right now, but it's another one we can take away and let you know. Of course, you can always go for the most up-to-date information is the Clean BC webpage or to your utility webpage. I'm not sure if you're in Fortis Electric or BC Hydro territory, but they have several pages summarizing their offerings, and you can always reach out to them directly if you need to.
And Amber, not to put you on the spot, but if you would be available to just speak to the different solar and battery rebates that are available through BC Hydro, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, BC Hydro right now are offering $5,000 for single family homes for solar panels, and then 5,000 for batteries as well. I believe at the start of this month they have changed their battery offer slightly. I think they're wanting you to sign up with their Peak Saver program, and there's some linkage with, whether you just install batteries or do solar and batteries together. But yeah, up to 5,000 available for both.
Thanks, Amber. And I'll pose this next question both to Danielle and or Amber. Um, but it's from Melanie saying, I'm currently working with the Retrofit Assist program while looking to electrify my home. Unfortunately, I've discovered a need to increase my electricity home service in order to support a heat pump. The cost to increase the service is at least 50% of the value of a heat pump installation. It's a significant increase in costs and one that may make it a deal breaker for me. Are you aware of any grid upgrades or other BC Hydro plans that may make service upgrades less expensive to homeowners?
Do you know of any grid upgrades or BC Hydro plans specifically, Danielle?
I was waiting to see if you do have any. So I know that this is, so I was working in the building space more specifically about 4 or 5 years ago. Then, as is now, the conversation about financial support for grid upgrades continues to come up. It's usually a bigger barrier to folks electrifying than some of the other things. I'm not familiar what BC Hydro is up to, but we can definitely follow up with our contacts there and get that shared out in the minutes with this session. I know at points in the past there was consideration for rebates tied to grid upgrades, but I just don't know where that is now, so can't answer confidently.
Yeah, and I'd also just add on that as well. You can look into some kind of load management devices and load controllers to see whether you can kind of divert power away and maybe kind of free up some space on your panel. So yeah, I don't know if you've spoken with any kind of electricians that specialize in that, but that might be something to look into. But yeah, it's a very common experience that we've seen through Retrofit Assist, where yeah, panel upgrades can be really expensive and can be a kind of sticking point for some people. So hopefully you can find a way to make it work. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and we'll find out a bit more. I know that it was definitely on their radar for a potential rebate. And I don't know the full details, but I'm also aware BC Hydro was changing. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the individual who asked the question, but I don't know when you had that conversation, but I know in recent years BC Hydro was changing the cost for the individual for connection upgrades because recognizing that it's not fair to distribute all of the costs to the person that requires the system upgrade on the block because a block is typically serviced by hydro. So just hoping that the information you have is up to date and just flagging that as a potential thing for follow-up.
Thanks both. Uh, Next question we have in the chat here is from Dean. Does the BC Hydro credit program for surplus solar production, which can build up in the sunny months, reduce the need for a home battery aside from power outages? Our panels gave us about 4,000 kilowatt hours credit by November.
Ashley, have you come across this?
Yeah, and that's like the nice thing about the credit program is basically you have we have basically zero generation from December to usually about March, because of snow and because of the lower solar radiation hitting the panels. Um, and again, I'm not the expert, but I feel that is kind of a different thing, that buildup of credit versus like the home battery. My understanding of the home batteries is more like um, it's a way smaller time scale, if that makes sense. It's like you charge your battery that day and it gets discharged that day on a week, whereas the credit program is more about building up your the bulk of, or building up the credits that you're going to then use in the winter months with your generation over the summer. I'll defer to the battery experts here, though.
No, that's about as much as I understand. Obviously, the nuances and how the program works is a great question for your conversations with your utility when you're setting that up. One question for you, Ashley. Have you experienced a power outage or anything since you've installed your infrastructure? How did that go? How did it come back online? Anything that you wanted to share?
Yeah, we've experienced good questions. So for any experiences, I would say like not infrequent power outages. Um, we had one during the summer months where our solar panels were still generating, so it could feed like electricity basically right into our house. And then we had one in the winter time where we had no generation, so it was just like a regular. So we've had both experiences where we had the ability to still have a bit of power, but then in the winter time there was no generation. Um, so both, it all depends, I guess, since we don't have a battery, when we do have a car that hopefully can do the vehicle to home at some point, which is what we kind of have our eye on in terms of that home battery component. Because we don't have that buffering system, then we're kind of at the whim of whatever is being generated on our panels.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks,
And
both.
yeah, thanks, Mariah. I have just one more question because I know we need to wrap up. Um, any quick advice you might give to someone, Ashley, considering undertaking the work that you did? Key learnings, key takeaways?
The key takeaway probably is that it is a large initial investment. Like it requires quite a bit of it's a large sum of money at the very outset. But I think the cost savings over time are pretty substantial. So for us, it's like an 8 to 10 year buy or payback in terms of that. Um, and no, once it's in, it, like I said, the systems are incredibly passive. They just sit there doing their thing. So it's all of the pain is in paying for it up front, getting it in. Once it's there, it just sits there and does its thing with very, very little input from anybody. So they're very effective systems.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Ashley and Danielle, for a fantastic presentation. Just in the last negative 30 seconds of our webinar today, we wanted to share gratitude for the generous contributions of our sponsors and partner organizations. It is thanks to these organizations that we are able to offer this webinar and this series free to homeowners like yourselves. And then our third and final webinar in the series, Grid Resilience and the Peak Smart program, which Danielle alluded to earlier in her presentation, will be happening in a few weeks on May 6th. It'll be a bit earlier in the day than these last two webinars, so it'll be at 10 a.m. PST. You can register using the QR code here, or you can wait for the follow-up email that we'll be sending out in the next week or two. And that is it for now, everyone. We appreciate you taking the lunch hour to share it with us. And again, we'll be sending a follow-up email soon. So thanks and have a great day.